Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabolis. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today's guest is no stranger to our show. It's the one and only Ms. Judy Bradt, CEO of Summit Insight. Judy and I met almost 2 years ago now, if you can believe it, Judy. And we're a part of a GovCon group together called NextGo. And I'm ever so grateful to know her and be able to learn from her experience and expertise. I know you will feel the same. Thank you, Judy, for coming back and joining us.
Teresa, thank you for inviting us, and thank you for the tremendous support and essential resources that Parabolis gives to GovCons. It's so special to be working with somebody who is part of an organization that was created to make GovCon success more possible. So it's an honor to be here and to serve and support your community.
Thank you so much. And we had you on once before, and I told you I was going to hold you to it about coming back again. So I'm glad that you're here, because what we're going to chat about today is probably your sweet spot and the thing that you're most passionate about. And so I would love, though, if you wouldn't mind first taking a minute to talk a little bit more about yourself. There could be people that may not have joined us the last time that might not know what your expertise is and how you got involved in GovCon the way that you are, and deep dive a little bit into what Summit Insight does as well.
All right. Well, Teresa, I'm in my 35th year in the federal arena, working with experienced government contractors that want to win more federal business. And I also work with folks that are experienced in the corporate world and haven't really put a toe into federal or really been able to figure it out and want to be more successful. The core of my work centers on human connection in the federal arena, which is a long, fancy word for sales. Sales is often the love to hate part of the profession in government contracting. And it's become my passion because of how badly I understood what sales was all about for the first 25 years of my career. And failure to understand what sales really was, I did the math, cost me over $1 million in foregone income. And nearly 10 years ago, when I had one of these crucible experiences, a very, very tough project and a hard year, at the end of that, I thought, wow, first, I am never doing this again. And second, hey, I cannot be the only person who knows a lot of really helpful stuff and really doesn't know how to sell. Nobody should spend a year the way I spent that year. How could I make that the art of human connection in the federal arena a lot easier, a lot faster for people to win work, in order to change the world, in order to create transformation and serve people and do all those things we want to do as GovCons? If we don't sell, we don't build those relationships, we can have all the databases and proposal automation and marketing algorithms we like, but we're never going to be successful. And so to bring that to light and then put it to work and put it to heart and put it into the world is somebody who recognizes that that's a missing piece for them. Mm-hmm. That's why someone works with me.
I love it. And, you know, I say a lot with customers that I talk to regularly that, you know, learning from lessons is so key in your educational process, and they don't have to be challenges that you've actually faced. And so people can learn from you based off of your experience and how to navigate those situations that you just spoke of. I mean, sales is not for everyone, but it is a necessary part of our process in not just government contracting, but everywhere. So it's beautiful that you actually have, you know, in seat experience of what it takes to get through it. And you have used that to share with people how they can not have to go through the instances that you did to get to the other side. So I love it. And so let's talk about what is a good fit. Let's dive into what it looks like to work with Summit Insight. So who is your company serving? Why is someone choosing you and participating in your, from a level? Are they a C-level? Are they business development? What makes them a good fit for your programs?
The folks that work with me are committed to growing their federal business first. Typically, the companies that work with me are 555. The company has been in business more than 5 years. They've got more than 5 million in revenue, and they're approaching about 5 people whose responsibility is completely or in the majority related to federal sales and relationship building. People have in different roles in a company all contribute to sales. That absolutely includes the C-suite. Typically the business owner or their most senior person, maybe it's a chief growth officer or a vice president of business development or a vice president of sales. So there must be leadership from the C-suite involved when I engage with someone. It often includes one or more people whose job is, it says sales right in it. And it often includes the person who does proposal writing. Frequently includes somebody who's on or part of the marketing team. Okay. And often includes some leading program managers or subject matter experts as well. The people who are the most successful in the federal arena all smile and nod when they hear the phrase, everybody's in sales. And a different way of thinking about sales is not the scary person with bad fashion sense and a loud plaid suit. But I would like to challenge you to take away, if you take away nothing else from this podcast, I want you to think about sales as the art of continually renewing consent to be in connection. I'm going to say that again, continually renewing consent to be in connection. That's it. Being able to know the way to connect with the individual federal human who's in a unique role in the federal arena in a way that's meaningful to them, and give them an experience that shows, oh, we get you. And that they know that every time you're in touch with them, something great is going to happen. And that means they're going to want to return your call, engage with you, and better understand how you can help them be successful. That's the core experience that you're learning how to create over and over again with anyone in a federal agency or organization or program where you want to do business, bring success, bring transformation.
I think what's best about you, and I hear you say it often, is the human connection aspect of it. I don't think enough people see things from that perspective. It makes everything a lot less scary when you know you're just talking to another human being. And I'm not saying this from my own experience, because I talk to a lot of human beings all the time, but it doesn't come naturally for everyone. And so I think you've broken down a lot of barriers for people that get nervous about that interaction by saying we're all just people. And so if you can connect with someone at the level where they are, instead of trying to make it into something bigger than it is, I think that's so important. And I don't hear many people say it the way that you do. So I so appreciate that, because it is something as simple as a nice note or a kind word or a smile even that can eliminate that stigma of nervousness or stress that tends to be imposed on a sales process. And I think, as simplistic as it sounds when you say it out loud, it still is the point of contention for a lot of people in the sales process. If they don't feel comfortable, speaking from a human to a human, it stifles the whole process. And I think, that leads into where we're going to go next with the conversation is your federal business intensive. It has led clients to hundreds of millions of dollars in federal contract wins, which is ginormous. So I want people to wrap their brain around that. This is not her first rodeo. So how did you come to develop the federal business intensive?
I ended up in a project. It was going to be a great project. I was going to be working with 7 companies for a whole year. And I got to the really past the heavy lifting point of the program, where in doing the service delivery and had delivered the core sales training on federal sales, given sales plans to companies who were doing everything from city block size generators, uninterruptible power supplies, waterless shampoo, snap lock food containers. And I said, okay, you've got your sales plan, make some calls, see you Monday. And they said, when are you making the introductions? I said, the what? They said, the introductions. I went, no, 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 no. They went, yes, 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 yes. I said, no, 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 no. They said, uh-huh. And I went through shock and anger and denial and screaming in an empty house and yelling at myself, wondering, what did I do? And I finally had to get to acceptance and take a deep breath, pick up the phone and open my sales plan. And I was so awkward. I didn't know what to say. I stumbled over my words. I felt really scared almost all the time for weeks and weeks on end. And first of all, when I took a step back, I realized I was awkward, but people were kind. My very staggering around with just, here's what I think I want to know. Can you point me in the right direction? People actually connected with me better because I wasn't showing up with some kind of memorized slick pitch. I was, okay, here's what I think I want. Can you point me in the right direction? The cool thing about calling anyone in a government organization, service is in the name of their job. They are public servants. It's also, we're there to serve them, but they're also there to serve us. And so after going through lots and lots of fear of failure and a lot of shame that I didn't know how to do this, and I'd been in the market for 25 years, at the end of that year, I realized talented people in the federal arena don't have years and months to waste in learning this. What if I could teach the basics to people quickly and give them that feeling of comfort without needing to be perfect, and break down the journey of connection into small bits and make it easier to understand the players at different layers and how to research and understand and talk to people, so that when you're calling an individual federal human, you're showing up knowing some things about them and having smart questions to ask. And the biggest lesson I took from my scary experience, my turning point, was this. I was talking to Dr. Ned Robertson. It was like my third call on him. Dr. Ned Robertson was an endodontist with the Indian Health Service in Penobscot, Maine. I was literally dialing for dollars for endodontics. I was making appointments for a company offering root canal equipment.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell, and it was unforgettable. And he was talking about his nephew who had just been accepted into Georgetown Medical School. He was so proud of him. And what he was doing on his Tuesday off. You know what he was doing on his Tuesday off? He was sewing curtains. And those guys from BNL Biotech, no problem, set up an appointment, just not on Tuesdays. And he hung up the phone and went, that was it? What did I do? How do I do that again? Mm-hmm. And realizing the core of that experience of being patient and continuing to show up, I knew that this company had endodontic equipment that was leading edge and using a process that this guy would understand. And my job was to show up with persistence because I knew I had something that mattered. Mm-hmm. And I'd done my homework. And to be able to give someone that kind of focus and then the steps to understand what somebody needs and a structure that means they can keep showing up with confidence to build the relationship. Mm-hmm. That was the core of creating the program. And then creating it in a compact methodology that people could learn in a matter of weeks.
Well, that's great. Because like you said, there's no time to waste when you're trying to go after a government contract. And I think, your ability to be patient on the phone is hard. And it does need to be, to a certain extent role modeled. And I think that your ability to do that is probably the most impactful, because if they know that not only did you sit in that seat and do the same thing, but it worked, helps a tremendous amount as well. So, like I said, not your first rodeo. So I think people feel very comfortable knowing that because it worked for you, it can work for them too. And so they need to try it. And the results in hundreds of millions of dollars in contract awards is pretty evident that what you're telling people to do actually, when put into practice, works. So it should be listened to. And that's amazing. You have an uncanny way of presenting ideas in a way that makes it memorable. So I love your the way that you present your ideas, and to your point, to this point here is your players and layers methodology, which sticks in your brain, right? So what's the principle of your players and layers methodology, and what makes it so effective for your clients?
It comes down to a single word: dopamine. We as human beings want to do things that our experience shows us help us be more successful. And so the same thing is true of our clients, the federal humans that we're trying to contact. And so the way that we are defining our goals in the vendor community, typically, Teresa, name a goal, a typical kind of a goal that somebody who's in industry might have for their whole year in the federal arena. What's one kind of goal people talk about all the time?
Increasing their sales from the prior year.
Wonderful. Now, increasing sales. There's nobody on the federal side that the goal, the thing that's at the top of their performance appraisal is increase sales or increase revenue. Almost nobody. So how can you show up? The players and layers methodology starts out thinking about, all right, there's players at 5 layers. Write it down. I'm now going to tell you what they are. All right, the 5 layers, and there's nuances within these, but are the stakeholder, that's like the base commander, the CIO. They're not in the room when the vendor gets chosen, but they're setting the priorities, the language, the things, the mission that the agency or program has to accomplish. So stakeholder. Small business specialist. They are not your buyer. They don't have buying authority. They might have had it in the past. They can help you, and the more work you've done, the more helpful they're going to be, but they are also not your buyer. The contracting layer. That includes the contracting officer who does have signing authority, legal authority to write the contract, and their supporting contract specialist team. The end user layer, that's very rich and with contacts and has many people in it. Everybody from the warrior in the battle space, the person on the tier 1 help desk, to the program manager in the office. Lots and lots of people there. They're stuck with the consequences of choosing you, and they have a lot to do with defining what they like and don't like and need next time. And finally, industry. That includes incumbent primes, large and small, your competitors and competitive mates. When you're successful, you have got people who are cheering for you at least 4 of those 5 layers. Even if the stakeholder might not ever meet you, but they are going to be stuck with the consequences big time if you fail. Mm-hmm. All right. And so your ability to be successful depends on how you build relationships at all of those layers. And if you've ever had and all of us have had the crushing, frustrating, expensive experience of losing, if you go back and take a look at what happened, more often than not, you'll find that somebody who was not successful in a bid didn't have support at all of those layers. And so the players and layers methodology is powerful because it helps you answer the question when you're trying to say, should we bid? Who do we know? Do we know people at all the layers? And if we don't, why are we bidding? Is our bid part of a longer term campaign to build relationships with people at all of those layers? And if it isn't, what are we doing? Players and layers is effective because it's based on the idea that the players at each layer have specific roles and goals tied to those. And so when you are building a relationship with somebody at the contracting layer, the things that are important to them, what's at the top of their annual performance appraisal, think about that. What might that be? Well, it might be awarded all the contracts on time with no protests and spent all the money by September 30th, for example. That might be at the top of their performance appraisal. Small business specialist, it might be met or exceeded our agency, our program, small business goals. Now, those are 2 very different goals. The people at the contracting layer and the small business layer, they're there to help you, to work with you. They're more likely to return your call and engage with you if the way that the questions you're asking and the things you're bringing them show them really quickly that you're focused on helping them be successful in their role. And so players and layers, if you draw a matrix, okay, with 5 columns and 3 rows. And you can put those players across the top, and your rows are going to be, what are the goals of the person at that layer?
Mm-hmm.
What are the milestones? What are the big things that they're going to be working toward month by month, quarter by quarter? And finally, and this is the special sauce that lights up everything, okay? There's a concept I call micro engagement. And a micro engagement is something that either you or your federal human can initiate that takes both of you closer to your goals. And so for the small business specialist, just by meeting you, just by knowing that you exist as a qualified supplier, that they're putting a bean in their jar. That's contributing to the goals that they have, which includes meeting lots of qualified suppliers,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And just meeting you might be helpful for the contracting officer as well. But they may be interested in the fact that you have past performance or have contract vehicles that make it easy for them. And so in each instance, the kinds of things that you're trying to talk about, you're making your plans for conversation based on what's important to the person in that role. And then by researching, hey, where have they worked? What have they done? What are they responsible for? I want to pause and say LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. Over 2.4 million federal employees are on LinkedIn. And so it's not, I want you to think about LinkedIn, not just as a place that people use for job hunting, but a place to really get to know what's up with the person that you're calling on.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be thinking about what might be important to them. What questions could you ask them? And realize you're not going to get all of your questions answered in a single call, but if you can set up the dynamic that with every single interaction, you're going to be able to either ask a question or bring a thing that genuinely helps them or shows that you're interested in their success.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to make it a lot more likely they're going to return your call a lot more quickly.
Right. It allows you the ability to communicate with someone where they are, like you said, their roles and goals. If you understand that, then you know what kind of a conversation you should be having with that person instead of spinning your wheels and having them say, you know what, it's been great talking to you. However, that's really not what I do. You need to talk. So you've wasted your time to a certain extent. You may have gained a bud, which might benefit you at some point in time, but it is important to differentiate from, each layer and each player where their role lies in the process for you and how to speak the language of their goals. Because everyone likes to, be talked to in a way that makes them feel good. And so I love it that you can break it down in a simplistic way so that what we who are doing it all the time and feel more comfortable in it and have that ability to move with ease in those human connections and human conversations, giving that information to people who it might not be as comfortable for and allowing them enough background information on why it can become simple is key. And I'm with you 10,000% on LinkedIn. I am a huge proponent of it. I think that, to your point, there are millions of government agency representatives and prime contractor points of contact that are there for you to communicate with and follow and learn from. It's how I do the majority of my connections and my learning. I found you through LinkedIn and started following your podcasts, spots and the snippets that you give of all of the different videos that you have on your website and the promoting of your federal business intensive. I wouldn't have known about it had I not been looking on LinkedIn regularly. So it's great for you to highlight that as well. It's definitely something that people can benefit from being more engaged with. So I appreciate that. You are a busy lady and you do a lot, not just for Summit Insight, but you have a lot of activities that you're involved in regularly. Where can our listenership find you in the coming months?
I encourage folks to check out my upcoming webinar series. I will be doing those in 4 of them in the year ahead in 2023. And in the show notes, I've given you the link to both the upcoming ones for this year and the on-demand ones. Somebody who's in the Washington, D.C. area can also meet me in person at our GovCon Rock Stars. When I'm not doing government contracting, I'm a professional indoor rock climbing instructor. I've literally taught 1,000 people to go up a wall. And so if you want some literally off the wall or maybe on the wall networking on the last Thursday of the month. We get together at Sport Rock in Alexandria, and whether you've rock climbed before or you've never done it or wonder what that would be like, it's a great way to have a dynamic experience, meet folks, and really build trust. So GovCon Rockstars is going to be another place that somebody can meet me or eat with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And in the show notes, I've also got a link that somebody can book a call if you think you might be a candidate for working together in our federal business intensive. And so those are the biggies for connecting with me in the year ahead.
I love it. And I encourage people to do all of the above. We'll share out all of those links.
And the Players and Layers methodology, it is designed as a do-it-yourself concept. So you don't have to hire me to tap that principle and understand the players at all the layers and what to do and say and ask. In the show notes, I've given you a link to a whole section of my website where you can find mini lessons and the GovCon Personas Guide to help figure out what to say to people, and 3 easy lessons in free federal market research to help you focus on where you should be concentrating your efforts to do this. It doesn't have to be that hard. Sometimes I'm the right person to work with. If you think I could be, I'd love to have that conversation.
I love it. Well, I so appreciate your time, Judy. Thank you so much for coming back again. I hope you will join me again in the near future to share what you've got going on with you, because there's never a dull moment with Ms. Judy Bradt. She's always got something great cooking. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Teresa. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your amazing contribution to this show. We encourage everyone in our audience to take a look at Judy's website and check out all of the wonderful resources and information that she provides regularly. As always, we appreciate the support of our community and hope you will check out and follow our YouTube channel by the same name, where you can find an archive of our past podcasts. Be sure not to miss our upcoming episodes, as we have some exciting guests joining us in the weeks ahead. Thank you again. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day.